Howdy. It is Sunday, but when you own a store, a lot of times it's just good to come in and get some work done while you're closed because you can actually do stuff without getting interrupted by customers. So I'm here with the dogs, and today I just want to talk about why I think that Magic has a long way to go before we start to see recovery in the secondary market, and just the overall feel of what consumers are going to have with Magic going forward. And the discussion is going to be on just card singles is as a topic because I think that people don't really get the kind of the state that we're in due to the fact that I think that there's way more Magic cards out there than anyone realizes. I saw a statistic somewhere with Pokemon that was, I think it was from Reserve Investments. He did a whole analysis that 30% of all Magic cards or Pokemon cards have been printed in the last year. So think of the entire history of Pokemon, and about a third of them were printed in 1 year in just this Sun and Moon or Sword and Shield era. So Magic is also in not only an overprinting of the sealed product, but I think that stores are inundated. What's the word I'm looking for? Oversaturated. I can't think today. It's Sunday. We don't think on Sundays. But that the stores are probably in the same shape as me and have an excess amount of cards, just single cards. They're eventually going to enter into the secondary market, and the whole reason they haven't been is just because a lot of us aren't caught up with the amount of, well, twofold. It was super easy for a couple of years just to sell sealed product. Like sealed products went through the roof during the COVID eras. Everyone was paying high prices for the sealed product, and so it led to stores like mine just like, okay, well, let's keep pushing, moving sealed, and we get a lot of like trade-ins. So and if you're a store, correct me if you saw something different in those that kind of time period of the 2020, 2019, 2021 era, is we were getting a lot of trade-ins for people cannibalizing their collection to actually like trade in for sealed product. And so we had an excess amount of cards coming in and a lack of cards actually going out. Now we're actually starting to see a little bit of the opposite when people are deciding to go the singles route rather than purchasing the sealed. So we're starting to see more go out than go in. However, we're also starting to see a lot of collections coming in with people that just quit the game. And it's just to the point that it's just been too much for us to keep up with online. So if there's other stores that are in the same shape as we are, and you got to think of like the Star City Games and the Card Kingdoms, I wonder what their kind of state is in. And compound the fact that I think there's just so many stores that are going to be closing that have excess stock, and just record number of stores to begin with. So let me give you a bit of history when I got back into Magic the Gathering and kind of compare the markets of now with the market then. So I got back into Magic. So I've played Magic. I started Revised as a fifth grader. You can see how old I am now. Boomer Kevin over here started Revised. And there were very few shops, very few stores in the state of Utah. Magic was not a very popular card game. It definitely wasn't the masses. We were definitely geeks and nerds and rejects that were playing in the lunchroom with this new fun game that really scratched that itch. Felt like a computer game on cardboard. That's what everyone compared it to with Magic, because it really was way above its time for other games that existed in that time period. And so I got hooked to Magic the Gathering, clear back and revised, and I played up to about, off and on to about Odyssey, I think. And then I remember a freshman in college, I didn't have a car, I didn't have much of a social life, and I would go play at the mall at a place called Gainesfield Play in Orem, Utah, and played a little bit there. But then I took a huge hiatus from Magic and really didn't get back into it until I was going through relationship problems. Ended up splitting with my fiance at the time that I was with for 4 years. And I was coming home from the gym one day and saw a game store. I'm like, oh, I remember going to game stores. I am going to go and shake my muscles at some nerds, and end up really falling in love with the community, really re-falling in love with the game. And that was during Return to Ravnica. And Return to Ravnica was a very interesting era because there wasn't a lot of stores still. There weren't a lot of local game stores. Like Salt Lake, where I lived, only had like 3 or 4 in the entire metropolitan area of Salt Lake, which is about 2 million people. There was only like 3 or 4 stores, and they weren't that big. There was just, a couple of them that have been around forever that really cornered that niche. And the supply of Magic the Gathering was just in like the older sets. Like if you go before Return to Ravnica, that kind of supply was not that great. Even Innistrad, even like Innistrad, Dark Ascension, Scars of Mirrodin, New Phyrexia, all that stuff pales in comparison to just the massive supply now. And so I think the market still hasn't adjusted to that mentality of the older sets actually used to be quite scarce. There weren't a lot of these cards going around in that time period. And so when there was a huge boom in Magic the Gathering, those cards, of course, just went through the roof. And then it triggered a response by Wizards of the Coast to get in this like reprint policy where they'd have lots of good equity to target from the Shards of Alara era, the Time Spiral era, you know, that type of cards that were relatively now rare, comparatively speaking, or that, you know, in supply demand terms, relatively speaking to the amount of players that were now entering into things, especially like Modern. Modern was a massive, and then Commander was a massive new demand for like these older cards that didn't have a lot of printings. Where Return to Ravnica was just a crazy era with growth with Magic the Gathering, where stores popped up everywhere. The Salt Lake Valley went from, you know, 4 or 5 stores to 30, 40 stores in the Salt Lake area. There was like just one in every one of the major areas. They would have, you know, Provo, Orem. Provo had like 4 or 5. Orem had like 3 or 4. Lehigh had a couple. I mean, these are still things that were just in the county below Salt Lake. And Salt Lake itself just had one in every one of the major, you know, suburb cities had 1 or 2, 3 stores. And all of them were just going absolutely ham on building up something like what we have here with a lot of collections, with a lot of singles. And because that was one of the major reasons to open up a game store, one of the best ways to become successful and actually profitable is to become your own ecosystem. If you can actually become the market, the secondary market here, that gives you some actually really good margins with Magic the Gathering. And so you become your own little ecosystem and start building up a lot of product, and with it comes like a lot of bulk and just a lot of cards. And it was still profitable on a small scale of this, like, you know, you don't have to sell 10% of your cards to even be able to buy back those cards and more, with the ways that, you know, players at that point would cannibalize their collection and, you know, get the latest Commander deck or Modern deck. Or a lot of times too, like what makes this store so lucrative, and I've got some negative comments about this, about ripping off customers and blah, 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 is you just have people who will come in like not care. I mean, that's the whole plebetarian kind of mind frame, is like, they don't really respect value. So it's like, well, I'm not doing things. They're sitting in a closet. I'm too lazy to sort these. So here, I'll sell these to you. And stores make a lot of good profit margin on that, with being able to actually do like the work, the hard work. Zach doesn't want to be on camera because he looks like a Pokemon guy. He was fixing a toilet and moving fridges. And who are these idiots?
We moved the fridge.
You guys moved my slave work. Talk about, you know, this is how. It didn't work out that well. Let's scratch that. And I'm getting yelled at by Chloe, getting canceled by Chloe here. But anyway, where was I going? These guys helped me move a refrigerator, and I paid them McDonald's. So where was I going with this this little rant? So what I'm seeing is other stores. This is what we're working on right now, of course, is just sorting through just things that have piled up. Especially, this was really over the pandemic era where a lot of this stuff came in, and Zach and I just couldn't keep up with the amount of sorting that was coming in from the, like I said, the people that just didn't care at that point to like just like I said, cannibalize their collection to try to get the placed and greatest master set that came out and whatnot. So as you can see, we have bulk. Anywhere bulk can go, we've got it. We've got it just placed in every nook and cranny here in the store. So anyway, that's now I'm kind of off track of where I was going with this video. Is I don't think it's just me. I think that there is so much more Magic the Gathering and Pokemon out there that hasn't entered into the secondary market, because stores went from being like 3 to 4 per city to 40 to 50, and then everyone, their dog, decided they're going to be little eBay sellers and has this sort of stuff packed in their closets. And the whole thing is Wizards printed into this. You know, it takes a while for the ecosystem to really hit critical mass where this stuff starts coming back in. And I think we're in for a very, very rough time when this, you know, like I said before, the adage, the chickens come home to roost. All of these cards that have been out here, all these people that have been, you know, doing these little, oh, I'm going to start an online store. I'm going to start a store out of my basement. I'm going to start a local game store and have it collapse. The cards are still out there. They're still absorbed by these places, and they haven't even entered back into like the TCG players and the eBays and the Amazon marketplaces, because it just wasn't that lucrative at that time period to really sell, or people were waiting for like I was for better opportunities to sell. And now, whether there's a capital crunch, this is what we're doing. We're actually going to start going through stuff, and like we have way too much stuff than we're ever going to use at this store. Way too many copies of every staple possible that have come in, and it's going to start coming into the market. So it's another reason why I think that Wizards of the Coast needs to really, really cut back on this crap of creating this sealed product, because I don't even think they understand the avalanche of the amount of cards that is out there that eventually will enter back into the ecosystem. So you can see here behind our secret door here, I can't, where's a light? We have lights in this place. This is all bulk, or bulk cards that actually still do have. This is not true bulk. This still needs to be sorted through one time. These are all cards in here that they're commons and uncommons, but they do have some value. So I've never really bulked them out into like bulk lots and other stuff. And this is just us. This is little old Gone Rogue Games in Richfield, Utah. Yes, we've been open for quite some time. I think we've been open for 7-8 years. When did we open? Right after Battle for Zendikar, so with the Gatewatch, whenever that came out, was our first pre-release. But yeah, this was just this is us. This is a tiny, tiny store in rural Utah that has accumulated this amount of mass products. And I've just seen so many other stores that are larger scale. Like one of the things that I'm always regretting is like, man, if I would have opened up in a bigger area, of course, maybe the overhead would have got me at the first and whatnot, and I wouldn't be stiffer competition and stuff. But just think of the amount of cards that come into those larger stores that do trade-ins, and just the constant stream of stuff coming in over the past 3, 4, 5 years that has been building back up. So again, if you do know stores, and if you are a store, let me know if that's kind of how you've seen the avalanche of stuff coming in like me, or just how Wizards did a good job over the past with the FOMO over the past 2, 3, 4 years of creating better and better products to make people like cannibalize and eat their collection, and sell everything off to try to afford this new set that's coming out. Or again, they just bought so much, and they themselves, like what I tend to see with a lot of my customers is they get into Magic and like, well, I'm just going to buy a few decks. And then little by little, they hear the siren's call, and they're like, well, and the FOMO over the last few years has just been so crazy that it's like, no, I can't miss out on this Kamigawa. Well, I'm going to buy this Kamigawa. Oh, well, now this Master Set comes out. I can't miss out on this Master Set. What if this be like Modern Masters 1, and then I miss this opportunity, excuse me, to get this set that's never going to happen again? Oh, no. And then 2 weeks later, Wizards releases another thing, and then it's just like, eventually they themselves look at their collection and realize they got boxes full of stuff that they're never going to use and never going to sort, and so they end up just pawning it off to an LGS for $5 per thousand, or what we do with a lot of stuff is just try to give a good visual of what we think a collection is worth and make an offer, because a lot of times it's like a crapshoot when someone comes in with a box full of Magic cards. You kind of sift through it, look at the rares, and like, okay, possibly worth $200. I'll give you $200 right now because it's going to take a lot of work for me to sort and all that kind of stuff, and then it just gets thrown on the back burner, and you end up with this, where you have just a massive amount of cards that are already paid for, we've already made profit margins and all of this type of stuff, and eventually they're going to, like I said, get back in the market with, especially how we are feeling right now. The Wizards of the Coast is not slowing down, they're not stopping, so why keep an inventory when it's all this can be reprinted anyway? So that's why we're going to start liquidating a lot of this sort of stuff, just because we're sick of the value just getting absolutely eviscerated when Throne of or Wilds Will Drain reprints the same card for the 3rd time in a row. So again, doubling season, as we get. See, even this noob casual understands this. You've been in this game for like what, a couple of months?
2 or 3. Is that all you wanted, Zach?
Yeah. So now he thinks he's a professional. But anyway, yeah, that's what's kind of going on with Pokemon and Magic, especially UO2. I think that we haven't even seen the beginning of just the sheer amount of volumes of cards that are out there, and it's kind of scary knowing how far, especially looking at things like the reserve list, or even cards that haven't been reprinted in quite some time, that they're going down due to just lack of demand. And of course, that's also a huge factor too, that people are like, well, this card's never been reprinted. Well, unfortunately, every time Magic prints a card, they're competing with other cards in existence. So again, mentioned doubling season. What happens if like a better card comes around than doubling season, or a cheaper alternative that might not do quite the same as doubling season, but comes and starts competing with it? All of those things are going to affect the price of thing and compete in this overall kind of finite amount of money that is out there for something like Magic. And I think that we've seen the peak of Magic. I don't think that they're going to be able to replicate kind of the Lord of the Rings Post Malone era, the pandemic era. I think that was the glory height of Magic, and we're going to actually have to go back down to where maybe it's more enfranchised players that play, or maybe how whatever they're doing to market this game. I don't think that they're going to be able to grow exponentially like they did, Return to Ravnica forward, where they've seen growth after growth after growth. So eventually, this is going to become more and more of a problem, and there's more of this stuff in existence where the supply and demand is never going to be able to keep up, and that's what I really fear for Magic the Gathering is this stuff. This stuff has got to find a home eventually. I'm not the only one out there. I know that it is looking to move Magic cards and really changing their tone on keeping this sort of inventory, as we have lost complete faith in Wizards of the Coast actually creating a viable ecosystem for the secondary market. So anyway, weird kind of rant, been all over the place, but at least you get a video on a Sunday before I have to go and play Marvel Splendor for hours at a time. I got my childhood best friend. I go and play with his family on Sundays. I'll bring board games over and we'll play like a roll and write. We'll play like one of these games, one of these kind of roll and write games. We'll play like once or twice, and then it's Splendor for the rest of the night. And I got my butt kicked last week, so I'm looking for some revenge tonight with the Splendor. So fun game out here. If you ever need to hit me up for some strategies on Splendor, I'm your guy. I've probably played more Splendor in the past few months than I have Magic the Gathering. Anyway, there is my video for today. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any topics you'd like me to discuss, or if you have any suggestions, we are going to try to up our game here and start doing some more edited videos and stuff like that. But again, got to get this shop to where it's not hemorrhaging money, to where we're actually back in a nice little flow of things where I can feel comfortable. And then I really have decided that I like being behind the camera. I'm loving all your comments. You guys are like really feeding into my narcissism here of this is kind of what I like to do. I like to interact with people. I'm a little social butterfly, so this kind of scratches that itch for that. So maybe you'll see more of these two idiots if they ever want to learn how to do stuff, rather than just move refrigerators. And I'm not going to make any more comments before I really get canceled. Anyway, we'll talk to you guys later.